She slapped a bright red HOA violation on my mailbox and yelled, "I warned you! This whole street is HOA property and I decide what goes in these boxes." But the crazy thing was, there was no HOA, not in this neighborhood, not on my land. She just made it up because she hated that I was a single dad who moved into her perfect street. When I tried to pull the fake notice off, she stomped closer, pointing her finger in my face like I was some child. "Touch it again and I'll call the police for mail tampering," she snapped. I laughed under my breath, not because it was funny, but because this woman had already called the cops on me twice this week. Once because my truck was too loud. Once because my daughter's bike was blocking neighborhood harmony. Both times, officers just shook hands with me. They already knew her from dozens of fake calls. But today felt different. Today she wasn't just yelling, she was shaking. She was hiding something behind her back. When I stepped closer, she tightened her grip on whatever she was holding. "Your mail now goes through me," she said softly, like she enjoyed controlling it. "If you get packages, I'll inspect them. If something looks unsafe, I'll remove it." Her voice had that smug crackle in it. And that's when I finally understood why my letters kept disappearing, why my daughter's birthday card from her grandma never came, why my medical bill turned into a late payment threat. She wasn't lying about inspecting, she was stealing. I kept my voice calm. "That's a federal crime." She smirked like she was untouchable. "Then prove it." And that line, that tiny, poisonous line, flipped a switch inside me. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I just looked at her and said, "You know, you really shouldn't challenge people when you don't know who they are." Her smile faded a little, but she still strutted off like she'd won. What she didn't know, what she couldn't even imagine, was that I had already placed something inside that metal box this morning. Something small, something legal, something that would show the truth the moment she reached her greedy hand inside. Because she wanted my mail so badly, fine, she could have it. And the trap was already waiting that evening. I sat on my porch with my daughter's old laptop open, pretending to scroll, but actually watching the tiny live feed from the camera I'd hidden inside the mailbox. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't spy level. It was just something my brother gave me years ago when he left the service and told me, "You never know when people will test you." He was right. People like her always test you. The sun dipped low and the streetlights flicked on. That was her favorite time to strike, when she thought nobody was watching, when she thought she owned everything that touched the sidewalk. I heard her before I saw her, the sharp clack of her sandals, the loud sniff like she smelled something she didn't approve of. She walked straight to my mailbox, looked around once, then pulled a tiny flashlight from her pocket. She did it with confidence, like she had done this every night. I watched her on my screen as she reached in, fingers ready to steal whatever she thought belonged to her. For half a second, she looked proud. Then the trap snapped. Her scream ripped through the quiet street. "What is this? What did you do?" She jerked her hand back, shaking it, stumbling like she'd been bitten by a wild animal. The mailbox door slammed and she kicked it like it had insulted her. I walked over slowly, staying calm, my hands in my pockets. "You okay?" I asked. She hissed at me. "You assaulted me. You put a weapon in that box. I'm calling the police right now." I shrugged. "It's a mousetrap. A legal one, on my property. And you just proved you've been reaching inside." Her eyes widened for a second. Fear flickered, but she quickly covered it with rage. "Mail theft? Really? You think anyone will believe you?" I didn't answer. I simply tilted my phone toward her and let her see the live camera feed. The moment her face showed up on the screen, the moment she realized everything was recorded, she froze. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Delete that?" I didn't blink. "No." She stepped closer, lowering her voice even more. "Then I'll make you delete it." And that was the first time I saw something new in her eyes. Not annoyance, not entitlement. Something darker. Before I could say anything, she ran straight to her house, slamming her door with a force that made the windows shake. I felt it in my gut. This wasn't over. Not even close. And whatever she planned next, it was going to be bigger. I barely slept that night. Not because of fear, but because I knew Karen wasn't the type to lick her wounds and stay quiet. She was the type who doubled down. The type who thought consequences were for other people. Around midnight, my cameras caught lights flickering in her living room, her shadow pacing back and forth like she was planning something. Every few minutes, she peeked out of her window toward my home, like she was waiting for the right moment. Around 3 a.m., I heard the rumble of an engine I didn't recognize. Not police, not delivery, a private tow truck. It rolled in, slow headlights off. My stomach tightened. She wouldn't. She couldn't. But then the truck reversed toward my driveway. I stepped outside just as the driver hooked his chain to my front wheels. He didn't even look at me. "Ma'am said this car is illegally parked on HOA grounds," he muttered. "There is no HOA," I said firmly, "and she has no right to touch my truck." Before he could reply, Karen stormed out of her house wearing a robe, bandaged hand raised like a trophy. "He's lying!" The board approved the removal. "Tow it, now!" The driver hesitated, glancing between us. "Look, she showed me paperwork." "Fake paperwork," I cut in. Karen marched up, got inches from my face, and whispered, "You put a trap in your mailbox. That makes you dangerous. I'm protecting the neighborhood." Then louder for the driver to hear, "He threatened me with violence after I asked a simple question." I almost laughed. She wasn't just lying. She was building a story she planned to sell to the police when they arrived. I pulled out my phone. "Let me show you something before you touch my truck." I opened the camera feed from earlier. The exact moment she reached into my mailbox and triggered the trap, clear, close up, no doubt about it. The tow driver's face changed instantly. "Lady, you told me you had permission because he attacked you." She panicked. "He did!" The driver shook his head. "This is theft. I'm not getting involved in your mess." He unhooked the chain and got back in his truck. That should have been the end of it. But in Karen's world, losing wasn't allowed. She pointed her finger at me, her voice shaking, not with fear, but fury. "You think you've won something? You have no idea who you're dealing with." I turned to walk back inside, but she yelled after me, "Tomorrow morning, real cops will be here. And this time, they're taking you." I paused at my door. I didn't even look back when I said, "Karen, you really don't want to play this game with me." She scoffed. "Why?" "What are you going to do?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because if she thought a mousetrap was the worst surprise waiting for her, she was about to learn about the part of my life I never talked about. The part she wasn't ready for. Morning came with flashing blue lights, just like she promised. 2 officers stepped out of the cruiser, hands on their belts, calm but alert. Karen walked beside them like she was leading a parade, her fake bandage wrapped tighter than before, her voice shaking with pretend fear. "That's him. He attacked me and trapped my mailbox to hurt innocent neighbors." One of the officers lifted a hand toward me. "Sir, we need to talk." Karen grinned like she'd already won. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, "Sure. You want to talk inside?" The lead officer nodded. "Actually, yes. Someone filed a serious report." He said it carefully, like he wasn't sure what to believe yet. Karen cut him off. "Serious? It was attempted murder. He tried to crush my fingers." The younger officer looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, can you let us—" "No! You arrest him now!" she shouted, pointing at me like she was directing a firing squad. The lead officer sighed and turned back to me. "Sir, can you show us the mailbox?" I nodded and walked them over. Karen followed, still yelling that the weapon was inside. She thought she controlled the narrative. She thought fear made her powerful. I opened the mailbox slowly, letting them see the tiny mousetrap resting inside. The younger officer squinted at it, confused. This is the weapon?" Karen jumped in front of him. "Yes, he used it to injure me. Look at my hand." He crossed his arms. "Ma'am, why were you reaching inside his mailbox?" She froze, just for a second. Then her mouth twisted. "I was checking for dangerous items." "That's HOA duty." "There is no HOA," he replied flatly. We checked the address on the call. Her smile died. Now it was my turn. I pulled out my phone, opened the camera footage, and held it out to the officers. The moment her hand went inside my mailbox, the trap triggering, her scream, her theft, everything was there, clean, clear, unedited. The lead officer watched silently, then looked up at her. "Ma'am, you filed a false report again." Karen's face drained white. "It's fabricated. He edited that." "Live feed doesn't get edited," I said quietly. She stepped back, panicking now. "You don't understand. He's dangerous. He has training." Both officers turned to me. "Training?" the older one asked. Karen nodded fast. "Yes," he said. "He said I don't know who he is. He threatened me with that." I took a slow breath. I could have told them everything. My service, my certificates, the years I spent working security for federal agencies. But instead, I just said, I asked her not to mess with my mail. That's all. The officers exchanged a look. They knew she was lying. They knew she was spiraling. But before they could speak, Karen did something nobody expected. She ran toward my porch, straight to my front door, and grabbed the handle like she was about to break inside. "If you won't arrest him, I'll collect evidence myself," she shouted. The officers yelled for her to stop. I didn't move. I didn't need to, because she had just crossed a line even she couldn't talk her way out of, and she had no idea what I had inside that house waiting for her. She yanked my door open like she owned the place, but she only got one step inside before she froze. My hallway lit up with a soft beep, and the display screen on the wall flashed. Federal security system armed. Her eyes widened, and for the first time since I met her, she looked genuinely scared. She turned slowly toward me. What is that?" I stayed calm. "It's my old clearance system, installed when I worked with federal contractors. Motion sensors, entry logs, audio, full legal backup." The officers stepped in behind her, stunned. The younger one whispered, "This is serious gear." Karen tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. "He's lying. This is illegal. Nobody normal has this." I raised an eyebrow. "You're right. Nobody normal does." Then I tapped the screen. It replayed her breaking into my home from 3 different angles, clear as day. The older officer straightened. "Ma'am, step away from the doorway. You're under arrest for trespassing, filing false reports, attempted mail theft, and obstruction." She spun toward him, desperate now. "You can't do this!" "I am the HOA president." "There is no HOA," he said again, this time with zero patience. He cuffed her wrists as she screamed, twisting, calling me names, blaming the neighborhood, blaming everyone but herself. The moment they walked her to the patrol car, neighbors started stepping out of their houses, quiet, shocked, some even relieved. A few whispered things like, "Finally," and "She went too far." One of the officers came back to me. "Sir, for the record, why didn't you tell us about your background?" I looked at the street, the houses, my daughter watching from the window. "Because I didn't want to use my past to scare anyone. I just wanted peace." He nodded slowly. "Well, you handled this better than most." As the cruiser drove away, Karen's screams fading in the distance, I finally sat on my porch step and let out a breath I'd been holding for days. My daughter ran out and hugged me tight. "Dad, is she gone?" "For good," I said. "And she's not taking anything from us again." She looked up at me, small but brave. "You always protect us." I smiled. "That's what we do. We protect our home. No one has the right to take that from us." And as the sun set across my land, my legally owned, hard-earned land, I felt something I hadn't felt since I left the service. Not victory, not revenge, just freedom. Because in this country, and in this house, nobody gets to steal your mail, your safety, or your dignity. Not even a Karen.